Okay, finally, I got my act together, and I finally got a notable guest to come on to my YouTube channel. For you who don't know, I'm Francis McCaffrey, Ireland's most notorious blackthorn shillelagh stick maker, and I'm honoured today to have with me a very special guest. You might know him by name. His name is John Hurley, and he is the most knowledgeable guy out there on blackthorn, on stick fighting, on all of these things. He has wrote several books. He'll tell me exactly in a moment how many. And I just want you guys to show respect to this legend, I can say, living legend in the blackthorn community. There's no, I'm not kidding here, guys. There's no greater voice to have on here as well. Now he's a writer. He's very good at writing, and this is his first time doing something like this with me. And we're just going to have a chat. And I want John on regularly, and I want you guys to encourage him in the comments to have a YouTube channel as well and to come out. So, John, very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
How are you?
Nice to meet you too. Good.
I'm going to try not to talk too much because I have a habit of the gift of the gab of the Irish. I talk too much. So, John, how many books have you written? We'll start on something easy. How many books?
I have 4 published, and I'm working on a 5th one. So.
Oh, that's good. So
5.
you have. When did the first book get published? When did the first book come out that you did?
It was right after. Well, so it was around 2002. It was
2002, yeah.
Yeah, that was the one. It's a collection of stories by William Carleton, who was the stick fighter from Northern Ireland, and he's a really interesting writer if you've ever get a chance to read his other stories. But I just picked out the stories that were related to Irish stick fighting, and a lot of it has slang in it that's either 19th century just English slang, or it's 19th century what they call Hiberno English slang. So it's words that are spelt out in English, but they're phonetically spelt from Irish.
That sounds like a nightmare to research. How did you translate that?
But then you have to he gives on a lot of them, he gives footnotes and says this is what it means, or this is what I'm referring to. But then there are other books like there's a book by a guy named P.W. Joyce. It's called English as We Speak It, English Like We Speak It in Ireland, or As We Speak It in Ireland. And he had some of those like similar terms. So after a while, it's not that hard to figure out what they're saying. But for me, because I'm reading so much of it, but the average person, I'm just saving them the work of figuring all that out.
Okay.
And it does help.
Can you share with us some of those slang phrases if you can recall any of them? Any one or two?
There's one like I forget a Bulumski was one, I think, and it means Bulumski means like I strike the shield.
Say that again. Blumski?
Bulumski.
Okay.
And then, but I don't remember the context of it in the story. I just remember thinking that was an interesting phrase. But what was another one? I can't remember. There's a couple of ones that are like bully. Like I kind of wondered if the term bully came from that. It's like a bully boy or something like that, but it means to hit somebody is a bully. But like I'm not saying it correctly, but
no, it's like in Ireland, like there's the slang is a part of culture. Like there's if you're down in Cork, they have their own slang. Like I won't translate it now, but you know the Cork expression, you're a langer. You might have heard that before.
I have, but I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, but it's just an example of some slang that someone will probably be researching now in 100 years from now. You see, that's the great thing about YouTube is that these videos stay up forever. So 100 years from now, someone will be watching this for their college research or something like that. But going back, so 2002, how old were you, John, then? Do you mind me asking?
I was 102 back then. Yeah, what's I? About 37.
37. Okay, so midlife crisis type of book, or what was it? What was the inspiration to get going?
No, it was one of these things where I had been researching it. It had been something that was in the back of my mind when I was pretty young. And then actually the first sort of real book I ever found about it was a small version of one of Carlton's stories called The Party, Fight, and Funeral. And I was like 16 years old, and I was at the New Jersey Irish Festival. And, back then you had to actually buy things in person. You couldn't order anything online. And so I just came on this table, and I just saw on the cover, it showed guys fighting. I said, oh, that's kind of like that thing I was always curious about, like what's with the whole Fighting Irish thing. So I got it, and I kind of read it on and off because it was hard for me to understand at that point. And then I just started collecting more and more of this information. And actually I was talking to my dad once about it, because I think I told you he was from Ireland. He was born in Kerry, and he just got fed up of listening to me and said, why don't you just write a book about it already? And I was like, okay. So, but that was when I was like 21, 22, when I kind of sort of made a decision to write a book.
Okay. And did you just write bits and pieces and notes over the next 10 to 15 years and collect them all together? Or?
Yeah, it was sort of like I would sort of find a little, what do you call it? Like a little windfall of information about one portion of this story. And so it was more like in the beginning, I just kind of wrote like 10 or 15 page essays. And then as time went on, I just kept writing more and more of these with the idea that somehow I was going to tie it all together. And eventually, especially with, the internet coming out, it made it a lot easier to find information and to get books that you could never find anywhere. They'd never be in the library. You couldn't find them at your bookstore. And so especially older out of print books.
Yeah, because there's like being from Ireland, the records are atrocious. They're very hard to research anything. And this must have been an insurmountable task to try to collect all of that knowledge together and to put it down and put it out to the public, because it's so fragmented, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And actually, I spent time in I spent a couple of months actually in Dublin because I have family up there too. And I'm sure you've heard of Eason's, the bookstore.
In the bookshop, yeah, of course. It's still going.
Yeah. So I had gone in there a bunch of times looking for stuff. And at some point, a couple of years later when I got back here, I just wrote them a letter and said, look, this is what I'm interested in, because they were really cool. They were really helpful. And I just said, I'm looking to get these kind of books. And if you have anything, that you know of, let me know. And so they sent me the rest of Carlton's stories and The Irish Faction Fighters by O'Donnell.
Patrick. Yeah,
Patrick O'Donnell. So though that was a big help. Like that was a huge gap that got filled with that.
Okay, so it kind of pointed you in the right direction, and it gave you some sources to kind of okay, so there's sources here, there's sources there. How did you approach getting the sources? Did you visit any place in Ireland to try to get some documents, or?
No, I did try to go to a couple of places where there would have been faction fights, just to see, just to see it. But no, back then I just couldn't really. I didn't even know where to look. I just kept looking in books, finding descriptions, and then trying to sort of interpret it all, because there is contradictory stuff. And then there's, you got to kind of like say, well, is this guy, if he's an English author, is he telling the truth, or is it just
exactly
kind of biased, or if it's, there's all these different elements that come to it. And it's been really interesting too. I mean, that's the big thing is for me, it was really, really fascinating to just try to understand all the different levels involved in Irish culture. It's so complex.
Yeah,
Um,
it always rubbed me the wrong way, those British tourist books and French tourist books where they came to Ireland and they described the Irish people as being, these muck savages. And there's an account, I can't remember the author, but of this guy who came to Killorglin, my hometown, and he was very derogatory. He was describing the people as being almost like primitive and with sticks and everything. And so it's I like yourself maybe just thinks that the perspective of these authors was a bit subjective rather than a bit objective,
yeah,
and it always painted the Irish in a bad way. That's why your book and your books, they really do justice to what was going on, and show that the Irish people, it was part of this culture, and this faction fighting was a thing that really happened, and it's a good way to highlight this, and so going back to it, so when you kind of wrote the first book, how did you go about getting it published? Was it like difficult or?
yeah. I self-publish everything.
Oh, good.
I don't really. I'm sort of like my own publisher because um, actually years ago when I was in Ireland, one of my cousins, she introduced me to a friend of hers who was a retired college professor who had written a book, and like a novel, and she said to me, "Whatever you do," and I'm sorry to say this, but she said, "Whatever you do, don't use Irish publishers."
No, she's right.
That's what so I said, "Okay."
At the time, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, and I sent out. They're called like, a book proposal just for the hell of it, and
Yeah.
some of them I never heard from. Some of them I heard from after I'd already published it. Like that's how
Mhm.
long it took me to get an answer. And I just figured, if you self-publish it, you have more control over it. You can decide what to do with it. And now that they have print-on-demand books, you don't have to deal with any of the distribution problems that you used to. In the past, if you did it yourself, you had to buy like 3,000 copies of your book as a minimum print run, back them up in your garage, and try and sell them. And this
Okay.
way, it's out there. If somebody orders it, the book gets manufactured, and it's, so it just seemed like a better way to do it.
Okay, I have to ask you this. What did you think of the Gangs of New York as from your perspective? It'd be interesting to hear your take.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had, it's based on this book called The Gangs of New York by Herbert Ashbury, and I'd read it, and it's a good book. And I think Martin Scorsese wanted to make that movie for like 30 years. I read in an interview, and he, I mean, he did kind of a good job, but some of it is a little like, I guess because they were kind of rushed or whatever, or the budget, it was kind of like comic bookish. Like he has the one girl in the book, she's called Hellcat Maggie, and she has her teeth sharpened and she's got claws, and
Oh yeah, the cat one. I seen in the movie, and yeah, that scene.
yeah, I mean,
So
you know what I
cheesy.
mean?
Yeah.
It was so again, like you don't know how true those stories are, how exaggerated they are, but the basic idea of it was that they were fighting to try to kill each other, and that part was true. So, I think it was I think he did a pretty good job. I mean, no movie's ever perfect, but overall, I thought like the other thing was because they had to build the whole set. Excuse me, they had to build that whole setup. They kind of had to. I think it kind of limited them in what they could film, and which isn't a criticism. It's not there anymore. So there's only so much you can do with it.
Do you ever think of writing a better script yourself and have my good self for some consulting or something on it as well? I'd be very happy to be involved.
Like a movie script.
Yeah, why not?
I've thought, I've thought about it, and this was a long time ago, but I thought about it because as I was reading these stories, they're great stories, like William Carlton stories, or they're really, really cool stories, and there's a lot of action in it and all that kind of stuff. But I guess my feeling is that there's just so much literature out there, so much fiction out there, that I just feel like I would never. I'm just better off doing history. But
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Just I'm going to encourage you anyway to have a think about it. You might be sitting there, and you might get a thought. And there's great. Like from what I read your books so long ago, I can barely remember them. I got to go back to do it. Like back when I was first starting your books route. Like I went on to Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Amazon when Amazon was for books, and
Yeah, right.
you search for Blackthorn or Shillelagh or anything. Boom, John Hurley, John Hurley, John Hurley. Like, and the reviews were always fantastic as well. And you're the only source. And then it was like I got the Patrick O'Donnell or MacDonald, I can't remember, book in the library. And there was a book called The History of Killorglin, which was written in 1985. And there's a whole section on Big Mick Foley and the faction fighting in Killorglin. And I found that quite interesting. And that's how I kind of researched it and got into it as well. And my dad was be a carpenter by trade, and so he was always working with wood and doing some sticks as well. And we would go to the market and the craft fairs, and that's kind of I always did it as a little side hustle, and more for therapy for myself, just to get away from everything, with the family and the kids and everything. I just wanted to go somewhere quiet, work with wood, and just there's something very calming about sanding wood and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
It's pretty good. So like the first book came out, was it before or after The Gangs New York?
It was after, because I was trying to get it done before, and then when basically 9/11 happened, they delayed the release of the movie, because at the last scene there, I don't know if you remember, but they fire onto New York City, and there's smoke and everything, and it does kind of look like what happened on 9/11. It's just, I think they just said it was, it was kind of too raw to be showing that at that point. So I was hoping to time the book with that, and that I had gotten behind it, and that sort of gave me time to catch up with it, so that I was able to kind of release it at the same time.
Okay, but that was good, because that movie really revived interest within within Irish stick fighting, faction fighting, with Blackthorn sales as well. Because if you've been to Ireland before that, in the tourist shop, you see all the tacky things that be selling, with shamrocks and stuff in this as well, and all that kind of stuff. And you're from North Kerry background, isn't it? Is it Ballybunion or
Ballyhide?
Ballyhide.
Yeah.
Okay. So when did the Hurleys get out of here and go to America?
Like my grandfather came over at the end of like 1924, and my grandmother was still waiting for my father to be born, and he came over and got a job in an apartment, all that kind of stuff. And then after I guess 3 months after my dad was born, they came over with his sister and my grandmother, and that was it. So.
Oh yeah. And when did you first come to Ireland?
1977. I was like 11, and it was one of those things where his siblings said, let's go over there and like have a reunion over there. And at the time, believe it or not, the prices weren't bad for flights. You know how expensive it can get. And but what was cool about it was some of my dad's uncles or older relatives were still alive. I'm sorry, one of them was still alive. So and he was from my grandfather's generation, so I got to meet him, Uncle Ned. He was cool. But and I got to see. I got to see kind of Ireland just before it really changed. I think, I'm not saying it's bad that it changed, but I mean, I got to see the house where my dad was born. It hadn't been changed in probably 100, 150 years. That was really cool.
Cottage, was it a cottage with attached roof type of thing?
Yeah, it was my dad's grandfather worked at the local like big house. I think it's like the gardener. So part of the job was that you got a house, and it was like a 2-family house. So it's basically a room upstairs and a room downstairs, which is the kitchen. And there was a row of like 4 of them, and all those people worked at the big house. So that's where we were told that's where my dad was born. So
that must have had a very big impact on you at 11, because coming from America, seeing where your family have come from, seeing that this house, knowing about your family history, like in your teenage years, did that have a big impact on you?
Oh yeah, yeah. That really, it's weird too. Like it had a big effect, but my mother had passed away when I was 8, so it was just my dad raising us. And before she died, I spent more time with her because I was just a kid and my dad was working. And if we did something like Thanksgiving or whatever, we would go to her side of the family. And then after she passed away, we just started spending more and more time with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, just cut out for a second.
Oops.
I think it's getting a little bit dark. The sun's setting with you. Oh wait, you've muted me now. It's just on mute. If you just unmute me. Yeah, you've just muted yourself there.
Now can you hear me?
Oh yeah, you're back now. Yeah, you're back. We're just doing this for the first time. So guys, if you're watching, have some patience with us. Like, we're just two old fellas trying to figure this out. Oh, he's gone. Oh, he's just disconnected. We'll see if he joins back again. Here he is. There, you're back again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? No.
Hello? Should I leave and come back?
Just stay for a second. See if it kind of goes again. I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me? Hello.
I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying.
Okay, could be some technical difficulties as well. We'll try one more time to see if he comes back again. But it was very interesting having you, John, for this time. We can see if it'll work again. Wait, we'll see.
Okay. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yes. Very good. We're back again. We're back. Sorry, I love that determination. No, it's fine. It's people are not interested in our faces anyway. They just want to hear our voices and know a bit about it. Because everyone knows the legend. There's John Hurley. Like, you'd see it online. People in Facebook groups saying John Hurley's the man. He knows this. You got to read the John Hurley's book. There's guys that post pictures of your book in a little semicircle that said, "Look, I've got all of these books," like showing clout. Saying, "Look, I've got all the John Hurley books and stuff." I'm kind of sad that I spend a bit of too much time online, and I see all of these different things. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of people out there that in this community they want to know about you, and it was good to hear about your background and your connection to Ireland as well. And I think it's important for people to know in this community people's backgrounds and how they're connected to Ireland and how they got interested in things as well. So how many times have you been to Ireland? When was your last year?
Excuse me. What was it? November of 2000, I think it was. Yeah.
November 2000, 22 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, there's an invitation here, John. You gotta come back. The people of Ireland are waiting for you there.
Like John F. Kennedy.
Yeah. It's changed a lot, man. Like I left Ireland in I think 2002, and I came back in 2006. And it changed really rapid, really fast. And Ireland got really modern. There was a lot of money and building in the country, and it's kind of evolved and changed a lot. And it's kind of it'd be interesting to you to come back now. You probably wouldn't recognize the country. It's changed a lot in the last 22 years. Lots of fancy cars you see, and tractors are still on the road.
Well, I know over in Ballyhigh, that's always been kind of like a seashore vacation town. Yeah. And just the last time I was there, there was a whole section on this hill of like 40, 50 new houses, like vacation homes. So, I mean, it's good. I mean, it helps people. If it helps people make a living and stay there, that's great,
Yeah, there's a bit of a brain drain from rural Ireland, and people leave. Like, there's not a lot of jobs here at the moment. A lot of people County Kerry would be dependent on tourism, and we all know what happened the last few years. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, look,
Yeah,
I want to know. You said you're writing, or you're in the process of a new book. Is that something you want to give any little teasers on, or any little bit of information, or?
No. It's I gone around and I found different songs that are about shillelaghs or fighting or stick fighting or whatever, and I'm in the process of. I've basically finished collecting them, and now I'm just trying to write stuff out to explain what they're about, because you wouldn't necessarily know it. And the thing that's really cool is that, again, this is another one of these things, like, you don't expect it going in, but there are certain songs like Finnegan's Wake or The Rocky Road to Dublin. I'm sure you've heard those.
Yes.
And growing up, I was always sort of told, or it was sort of understood from Irish people, that all those types of songs were from vaudeville, and they were very racist and anti-Irish. But then growing up, I would hear like the Clancy brothers singing those two songs. And what I kind of discovered was that the guy who basically invented vaudeville was half Spanish and half Irish. His parents were both immigrants. And he employed two guys from Ireland at his theater, and they're the ones that wrote all these songs. Because I was trying to figure out, well, if it's so racist, how do these guys know all these terms? Like, they use terms like kippeen, which means, like a little stick. Some guy writing that from England wouldn't know that. You know what I mean?
I have one to hand here. Where's the camera? There you go.
That's it.
There it is. One of these guys.
Kippeen or a stick.
Little ones, these little sticks, yeah. Kippeen, Alpine, and they have all these little names. But the thing is, different times were different. People talk more harshly. Now, John, will you come back sometime and sing for us one of these songs? Have you got a good voice?
I don't think so, but maybe I'll try. What's hard is too, a lot of them, the tunes aren't. I don't know. You'll see. It'll see. Like the name of one was like "You'll Know When You Get It" or something like that. I don't know what that is. You know what I mean? But there are other tunes. There are some tunes that are that I have heard. So yeah, I think I could try that.
I tell you what, we can sing it together like two drunken Irishmen. We know when she's together. You're just banging on the table. Like most of those songs, you don't have to have a good voice. You're just belting them out.
That's true. That's true.
There's always a good beat to him. But John, seriously, that book sounds amazing, because there's a lot of very valuable sources of information in songs and stuff. Like there's a song I know written about Big Mick Foley, the faction fighter from Killorglin, which be a distant relative of mine through my mom, who's a Foley. And there's a songs that were written about him in poems and stuff. I don't know if you've seen those yet, or I might see if I can find them in the local library here, because it'd be good to that's how he was known.
I haven't seen those poems. Yeah, that's cool. No, I haven't seen that. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, so that's actually like that's a really good idea for a book. And there's because you then have to research and explain it to people, and the context, and then you references. And what I like about that book you're working on now, it's going to open a dialogue. What did this song mean? Here is one perspective of it, and I think an open dialogue about these things is good, and it's beneficial. And it's what's needed anyway. It's a bit of old style music as well, and it'll be a good soundtrack to the movie we're going to do, John.
That's true. My dream is that the Chieftains would do the album of all the songs.
Oh yeah. Okay, you gotta get Shane MacGowan, the Pogues.
Yeah.
Fairy Tale New York, that style. You get the wolf tones are pretty good as well. The Dubliners, they would have been a good play. Or Christy Moore, even, Christy Moore.
Yeah,
he's a good guy as well. I tell you what, John, what we might do is we might call it quits for today. on this initial kind of attempt at doing a kind of a broadcast. I'm going to bring John back and have him as regular guest and get to know him, and we're going to deep dive and get more into. Oh wait, I think he's joined back to streaming.
Sorry, that happened again.
Oh, it's okay. I'm just going to wind it up now, John. And
Okay.
What I think that this was a good attempt for us to try to get this kind of dialogue going. And we're going to do this again, and we'll go in more detail into different topics. And if you have any questions you want to ask John, or any topics you want to talk to John about, please put them in the comments. And we'll just put these out there, John. And it's good for people to know a bit about you. And there might be some sources there, or some songs, or some different things people can volunteer. They might have some references as well. So it'd be good to kind of get people that are interested in this type of topic. And I'm looking forward. Like, John, I could talk to you for about 10 hours. Like, there's so many books, there's so many aspects, you've covered so much. And it'd be great to come back again. And thanks so much. I can barely see you now. I think the sun has set there wherever you're from. But
next time I'll put a light on. Sorry.
All right. Thanks so much, John. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for having some patience with me to come on. And we'll do this again, and we'll deep dive into the main topics, and we'll keep it all free. There's no Patreon group, there's no membership. We'll just put this out in the YouTube as well. No OnlyFans. All right. We might do an OnlyFans. You never know, man. You never spend money. Sure, I was saying shillelagh porn, with loads of these type of pictures. All right. On that note, we'll kind of leave it. We're just two messers here. Let me just